Hey everyone, welcome to the Rock Report. I'm Lydia.
And I'm Sam.
The North Dakota Senate passed 3 bills last week in response to protesters of the Dakota Access Pipeline. The bills, which have been fast-tracked, carry an emergency clause, which means they will come into effect immediately if the governor signs them. It's quite possible that Governor Burgum will try to sign these bills into law before the evacuation of the Oceti Sakowin camp, which is scheduled for Wednesday.
One of the bills would make it a misdemeanor to wear a mask while committing a crime. The bill was amended to address concerns about unconstitutionality, and the question is whether this bill is constitutional in its current form.
It was just basically boiled down to the big discussion was First Amendment rights, because a lot of the masks have logos on them. A lot of people wear masks for different reasons, and it's part of an expression. It's accepted as an expression. And then there's the concern that if they're in the act of breaking the law and using that to keep their identity from being known, or if they're fleeing from the scene after that should be treated differently. Where I fall down on it is if they are breaking a law and they're wearing a mask, then it should be a compounding factor in the sentencing.
Well, first, any of the bills that are coming forward that are considered DAPL or no DAPL bills, I am taking a little closer look at, because there's a natural tendency when we have a situation, whether it's national or in a state, where we respond to it with new legislation. Frequently, it's not necessarily the best thought out. I use the term knee-jerk on the floor, and so I want to take a closer look at it, scrutinize it just a little bit more. When I look at it, it's not a terrible bill. It says you can't wear a mask while you're committing a crime, and then wearing the mask is also a crime. But if it's already against the law to do what you're doing, to have a second offense because you were wearing a mask, the way I look at things is the offense in and of itself alone and separate an offense that should be a crime? It's wearing a mask is not, but the bill says if you're doing it while you're committing a crime. In my mind, then you just get caught for doing the crime. And I understand if you're wearing a mask, it makes it easier to evade. But it feels a little too clamping down, Big Brother kind of concept.
So the second bill increases penalties associated with rioting. More specifically, it would elevate offenses such as instigating a riot of 100 or more people to a maximum of 10 years in prison and/or a $20,000 fine.
Recently, the Associated Press came out with an article stating that participating in a riot would be increased from a misdemeanor to a felony. Now, that's not actually true. In order to get a felony charge, you have to either incite a riot or be armed during a riot.
So under this proposal, engaging in a riot or failing to disperse would remain a misdemeanor, but jail times and fines would be increased.
So since these charges only apply to riots, it's important to know when a protest becomes a riot.
So in the North Dakota Code, a riot is a public disturbance involving an assemblage of 5 or more persons, which by tumultuous and violent conduct creates a grave danger of damage or injury to property or persons, or substantially obstructs law enforcement or other government function. Now, the thing that stands out to me about this definition is the vagueness of obstructing government function. It seems like many activities could fall into that category.
That being said, we live under common law, and there has to be some allowance in the law for the judges and the courts to decide what this law is going to mean in the real world.
So the other question is, why do we need the increase in the penalties in the first place?
As a deterrent factor, people need to know that there's a very heavy penalty waiting for you if you're the person who's going to incite the riot and put everybody's lives in danger.
Well, you have more law violations. There are more court hearings. You have more court hearings, you have more sentencing. You have more sentencing, you have more people in prison.
And I don't want the people I represent, the taxpayers I represent, to have to pay to keep these hoodlums in prison for another 4 years on top of what they would have been.
North Dakota isn't the only state to propose this type of legislation. Lawmakers in 10 other states have recently proposed legislation that would increase criminal offenses in exactly this type of situation.
So opponents to the North Dakota legislation argue that it threatens First Amendment rights, but North Dakota Republicans say none of the measures infringe on the right to protest.
So go for it, have a debate in the comments, that's what news should be about. And if you'd like more updates and you'd like what you see, subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Facebook.
Thanks for watching.